friends, this is Tracy from the Sewing Channel and Josie. I love you. She is wearing the bib today that I'm going to teach you how to make. Now this is a waterproof bib. I decided to... Okay, my granddaughter Josie, she put my bibs to the test, no doubt. We bought different bibs for Josie in hopes that they would be waterproof, but guess what? They weren't. So I decided to troubleshoot and research how to make a waterproof bib. The two inner layers that I use in this bib, the one on the left is a stretchy laminate fabric made by Reversible used for baby bibs. The one on the right is polypropylene, the stuff that we used when we made our masks. It's CDC approved, it's breathable and moisture resistant. Separately, these two products worked pretty darn well. Now the polypropylene, when pressed on, went to the paper towel on the other side. And the stuff made by Reversible, when liquid would hit it, it would seep on the fabric side and spread really quickly. But the thing is, when it spread to the edge, that's when it went onto the paper towel, and so it would also do that onto fabric. But when I put these two products together in a bib, it worked like magic, and I'll demonstrate it here. I laid the Reversible stuff over top of the polypropylene, which is over top of the towel, and you see me, I'm pushing it to the edge just like I did a second ago when it went all over the paper towel. And you can see here as it spreads that it is definitely seeping onto the other side. But wait, because of that polypropylene right there, I have a totally dry towel. This is soaking wet, you guys, just so you know, it's soaking wet. And look at, we've got a dry baby under there. This is dry, dry, dry. Boo. A boo. Are you cute? Are you cute? Are you cute? Are you cute? First, I'm going to take the Reversible Boutique polyurethane laminate fabric and lay that down. And then I'm going to take one of my pretty fabrics and lay it right side up, right on top of the laminate fabric. And then I'm going to lay another pretty fabric on top of that, face down. And you see here, I fussy cut those roses so they're in the center. Next, I'm going to put a layer of the polypropylene on top of that, which is CDC approved in mask making. Polypropylene is moisture resistant and it is breathable. Be sure to pin the four corners and do not pin in the center of the bib because we don't want any breach for liquid to pass back and forth on this bib. The polypropylene is really easy to mark on, so I'm going to take my template and lay it on top of the polypropylene side and trace my pattern onto that. Also make a mark on the side of the bib, on the straight edge part of the bib, not to sew on that area. That's where we're going to turn our work right side out. Now here, I already started sewing and cutting mine out before I did it on camera, so I apologize for that. That's why mine is partially cut already. So what you need to do is, with all four layers pinned, take it to your sewing machine, sew all the way around. Do not sew in the neck area, and also do not sew on that side where we're going to turn our work right side out. So this is what you should have so far after you've sewn all around and not sewing the neck area or the side. Now you're going to cut around the entire bib, and I left about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch around the stitch line that I just stitched on my sewing machine. Now when you get around to the neck area, you are going to cut into that. Now when you cut, you're going to cut on the line, the actual line that you made when you first traced your pattern. So you should have the raw edges within the neck area just like you see here on mine. To make the nice soft neck area, you are going to need approximately 9 inches of rib knitting. It has to be rib knitting or any kind of soft knit I would think would work as well. Now on this particular bib, I made mine, I believe, about 1.5 inches in width. but I think 1¼ inches is just fine. I think the other is too big, so you might want to gauge that and see what's best for you. Now we're going to turn the bib right side out through that hole that we left that we did not stitch when we stitched all 4 layers together. Now we're going to go ahead and put a couple clips at the beginning part of the rib knit here, but we're only going to clip it to 2 of the layers. So you're going to be putting it through 1 pretty fabric and 1 inner layer. Your free arm on your sewing machine will come in handy for this particular project. So you see here, I've taken the clips out and I've already started sewing, and I'm sewing at about 1/4 inch. Now when you first start to sew, that angled end you want to be tucked out of the way so that you can't see it when we turn it back right side out. It'll make more sense when you see the whole process. So essentially what I'm doing here is tugging a little bit on that rib knitting so that it pulls taut a little bit. I didn't like the footage that I first had sewn on the other bib, so that's why you're seeing this footage on yet another bib. So you see here, I'm just taking my time and I'm only sewing it to 1 side of the bib right now. And then when you get to the very end of your rib knitting, you might have a lot left over like I did on this particular one because of the stretch that was within the rib knitting, and then you'll just cut that off later. But as you'll see here, I do kind of pull it down and run right off the edge of that rib knitting, and so that it's not seen on the outside of the bib. And like I said, hopefully that'll make more sense here in a second. And here you see I'm just cutting off that excess and just clip out any bulk that's around the neck as well, so that when we turn it right side out, it's not too bulky around the neck. So this is what it should look like right here. 1 side of the rib knitting is connected. Now we're going to turn it inside out again. If you find that you have trouble turning things right side out, inside out through narrow tubing like that top part of the neck area is, what I did on this bib is something that you might want to try too. I did leave an opening, another extra opening along that top neck area, just to see if it would help turning back and forth. And it did a little bit, not a whole lot. So you may want to take that option if you have trouble like that. So the next step here, we're going to sew the other 2 layers to that rib knitting. And how we're going to do that is you're going to, with your fingers, tuck that rib knitting down in and clip all layers together. Now I found that if you just clip that beginning part, that works great. You don't really have to clip the whole thing, because after you get those first stitches down, everything kind of lays flat. During this step right here, it's really easy to miss a layer. So you just want to make sure that you have all 4 layers together. And I utilize my medical forceps here to help me grab from underneath, just to make sure that I get those other 2 layers connected in. Next, we're going to turn the bib right side out, and we're going to give everything a really nice press before we top stitch around the entire bib. We need to make sure that we fold that opening that we've been turning in and out our work. We're going to fold that in about 1/4 inch or so, and we're going to give that a good press before we top stitch so that lays really nice and flat. Now we're ready to top stitch. You're going to top stitch around the neck area and around that opening, around the entire bib. One thing I want you to take note on is that with this Babyville laminate type fabric, it makes my needle want to skip a stitch or 2 in different spots. Now that's because I believe that it has a rubberized type backing on it, and it does have some stretch to it. So you may need to troubleshoot what needle you're going to use. I found that the best needle for me in this was a titanium needle, but you know, you can just troubleshoot what you have to see. Skip stitches do make you crazy, that's for sure, but I just want you to make sure that you do know that with that material comes that headache, so you need to troubleshoot that. You can see here after I've top stitched that I did use a yellow thread, and it does blend in, so you can go either way, blend in or stand out with your thread. So next we're going to go ahead and cam snap our bib. Now you can do a couple different things with this. You can use a button with a buttonhole. You can use Velcro. You know, whatever you use, a tie maybe if you'd like to put some ribbon there and tie them together. But I decided to do the cam snaps here. And what I do is take something pointy, position it where I'd like it, and poke a hole through both pieces. Now it does help if you have a dowel pointy something or other, but I used my my seam ripper, but be careful you don't rip your bib because it's very easy to do so. And you can go ahead and you see here I'm just doing the cam snaps, and those of you that know, this isn't a tutorial on cam snaps. There are tutorials out there, so you might want to check those out if you want to go ahead and do this. I finally solved the problem for my granddaughter of her clothes getting wet underneath her bib. With a little bit of troubleshooting, because I love her so much, I don't want her chest to be wet with clothes. I finally figured it out. It's waterproof, reversible, and it has the perfect neck comfort for her. And not to mention, they are pretty, right? We can use up all kinds of fabrics on this project. Now this bib right here has been tested out in the field on my granddaughter Josie. And let me tell you what, it works. It is reliable. Those other bibs, I mean, if I got to put something around her neck, it better work, right? And this one works. Until next time on the Sewing Channel, take care.